What's up, everybody? Soren Baker here on Unique Access, and today for Best Albums, we're joined by McKinley Ave. Thank you for coming through, sir.
Oh man, thank you, Soren.
And McKinley has selected one of the biggest and best albums of all time, of course, 2Pac's All Eyez on Me, released in 1996.
Yep.
So it's a mammoth album on so many levels. So for you, McKinley, you know, Pac had just gotten out of jail. He's coming off Me Against the World, and then prison, excuse me. He got out of prison. And then he, was coming off Me Against the World, which I think lyrically and thematically is possibly, if not definitely, his best album.
Yeah.
And then he comes out with California Love, joining Death Row and everything. So when you were first hearing California Love, what was going through your mind setting up this album?
Well, I was 17 years old. I just had my kid September of that year.
Okay.
So that was a real pivotal time in my life. I became an adult, started hustling. So that whole rebel voice is what I needed to hear that. You know what I'm saying? It helped kind of jumpstart who I am today. And California Love came out 6 days after my birthday. So we just played that record over and over and over again. And it just gave me such energy and drive to want to be, if not Tupac, better than Tupac, or just in the business, you know what I mean? I wanted to hustle, I wanted to get out and have more. You know, that record right there showed me it's more to life than what was just around me.
And I think too, Dr. Dre had done so many amazing records prior to that, but I also think that with California Love, like I remember several years ago, one day I just listened to the remix, which has the extended instrumental at the end.
Oh yeah.
And I listened to it on my headphones, and I was just like, the production on this is astounding.
Yeah, it was amazing.
And the layers and the levels and the separation from the tracks and everything is phenomenal. So for you as a producer and as an artist and as somebody that has worked for a long time in the game, what sonically and production-wise made California Love so spectacular?
Just like you said, you actually said it. Okay. The way Dre mixed it, the way he laid that thing out on that SSL board, you know what I mean? And spread it and put each individual track on its own channel so that the person could hear the warmth of the snare. You can feel the beauty of the synth, you know what I'm saying? Not like now where everything is squashed down two channels, you know what I'm saying? And you can barely hear what the hell is. I call music today like synthetic music, you know what I'm saying? Because Dre and Zap and DJ Quick, you know what I mean, Johnny J, they took time to separate the tracks and so that you could feel everything. So that was the beauty of it, man. You know, they actually took time producing these records.
And then going into All Eyez on Me, which came out a couple months after California Love was released, for you, knowing that it was going to be a double album, and this was the era when double albums started gaining momentum and started becoming more popular, what was your initial thought when you heard it was going to be a double album?
I was like, damn, Tupac got a lot to say. That's what my first initial was like. I said, Tupac is about to let the world have it. Okay. And then for every song to be a potential single was crazy. Right. Every song, there's not a song, even the commercial releases, he had 4 big major commercial releases, but every DJ and every person singleized each one of those songs on that album. And you were waiting for a whack track. You were waiting for something to skip, but it was not, you couldn't skip over anything. And that's what was the beauty of it. The whole album, you could just actually press play and ride. Right. And that was a great thing about it, you know what I mean?
And of course, Ambitions as a Writer is one of my favorites on there. But for you, especially having it on the top of the album there, like what tone do you think that kind of set or really got you in the mood when you were here?
You know, it's funny because Tupac took you on an emotional roller coaster. You know what I mean? So he didn't really have one tone. At one minute you'd be ready to jump out, pull the Uzi out the window and let everybody have it. And then the next minute you'd be ready to hug your mother and tell her how much you loved her. So that, for me, was showing his depth, you know what I'm saying? Showing his dimensions, his different dimensions that he had. And so that made me as an artist stretch my dimensions, not to be one-sided, you know what I'm saying, and one-dimensional.
So for you, what was a collaborative record that he did that was really interesting, that really stood out to you?
Got My Mind Made Up. Okay. With him and Method Man, because you got to see his lyrical, how he flexed a little bit, because with Tupac, he was gonna give it to you his way. But when he got on the song with Method Man, you could see that he still had that East Coast flow. And that's what I kind of liked about the record. He didn't forget the dimensions that he traveled. He had been in the Bay Area, so you heard the Bay Area rappers on there. He'd spent some time on the East Coast, so you heard the East Coast rappers on there. And he made West Coast his home, so all the West Coast greats was on there too.
Yeah, and I think too, having Redman, Method Man on the album, I think really also showed in the mix of all this alleged beef that the Coast were having at the time, that he was really able to, highlight and work with these dudes.
Exactly, and circumvent that bullshit and get to the point of making a great record. Yeah. That's why I like that record.
Yeah.
And the beat was a little different than you heard Tupac rap on.
Right.
It had that East Coast kind of jump to it. So that was different. And it still had the nice 808 sub, but it had a different type of East Coast track. And to hear Tupac put his style of rap on top of that track was definitely a dope marriage.
Yeah, and I think too that sonically and thematically, Tupac in his first 3 albums had shown a lot of range, but all the albums I think had like a specific theme. Like the first album, Tupac Lives Now, was all about really, it was an anti-police, police brutality record. Exactly. The second album, I think, became more political.
Definitely.
And then with Me Against the World, that's what he was talking about, like a lot of his emotions and inner thoughts.
His personal stuff that he was
depression.
Exactly.
Being incarcerated, where I think when we get to All Eyez on Me, we're seeing Tupac kind of branching out, but also because of the double album gave him that room, but I think it also allowed him to just show the duality of him as a person.
It did. And it showed the point to, hey, I'm rich, bitch. That was that, you've seen the poverty through the last records, you've seen all the heart. I'm rich, I'm with Death Row Records, I'm about to party hard, and I'm about to let you know Tupac is back. And that kind of gave me like, damn, it showed me that you can actually get to the moon, because seemed like he was sitting on top of it at that point.
Right. And I think too, we had especially coming against Me Against the World, or after Me Against the World, the production on it had a lot more variance, but it also had a lot more the bounce and a lot more energy to it in a positive manner.
Yeah.
It had a dark energy with Me Against the World because of what was going on with his life. So for you, as a fan, as an artist, as a producer, what did you feel like sonically and texture-wise was different about All Eyez on Me?
He had Dr. Dre there too, to kind of orchestrate that whole commercializing Tupac and iconizing, because there I think is when he really blew up, when the world knew about Tupac. So just having Dre in the building, I've been around Dr. Dre a bit, he's mentored me on different things, and he gives you a whole insight on what you have. He don't make your beat, he can just make your beat better. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing that I think he made Tupac just be the best Pac he could be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and with that too, what do you think the significance of this album was on the West Coast? Being from the West Coast, living on the West Coast, and experiencing the album on the West Coast in 1996. Like, what did that mean?
It was a lot of things going on. It was a height of gangbanging. Gangbanging was crazy at that point. Still crazy now, but much more crazy then, because credibility was still a part of it. So, you know what I'm saying? And those, everybody know what I'm talking about. So we needed a voice. You know what I'm saying? People were Tupac was able to say shit that the media just wasn't going to exploit or tell us, you know what I mean? And things that were underlined or swept up under the rug, he brought it to the surface and made all the youngsters aware, like, this is really what's going on right in your face. And that's what made that record significant at that time, because people were kind of just like blind to the fact of what was going on, or not wanting to really admit it. And he made you look at that shit right in your face. You know what I'm saying? And
one other song with that kind of tied into that was the I Ain't Mad At You song.
Yeah.
So for you, what did you take from that track?
That record right there showed me how to kind of brush the bullshit off my shoulders and move forward. Because people will do certain things to you, and if you let that affect you, and things that people say about you, if you let that affect you, then you won't move forward. That record helped me move. No matter what you're going through, you can still kind of persevere and move forward. So that's kind of what that record definitely did that for me. It showed me that, hey, look, man, I ain't mad at you. You chose your road, I chose my road. I ain't mad at you. All right.
So looking back, what do you think is the legacy of All Eyez on Me, and why is it the best album?
Just the feeling, what it did for me. It helped me grow up. It helped me grow up as it helped me turn into an adult. That record was a pivotal time in my life that made me become a man, and that record definitely helped me through that time. So that's why it was the best record to me, you know.
Well, there it is, y'all. Tupac, All Eyes on Me. Best albums, I'm Soren Baker. McKinley Ave in the building.
100.